Hi, I'm Joe Sondow, and I really like board games. I also like card games, and dice games, and role-playing games, and storytelling games, and bluffing games, and in general, what are called tabletop games now. But there's something special to me about board games in particular, and it's still a more common term than tabletop games. So I don't mind using the two terms kind of interchangeably. I think part of it's that, given the opportunity to choose between a whole bunch of tabletop games, I'm more likely to pick one that sort of resembles something like a board on a table. On a previous video, my friend Tracy commented, "I'd love to hear you talk about your favorite board game as a kid, then as a teen, then into adulthood." My favorites change a lot over time. As a kid, I really liked Candyland, and I just wanted to live in the land of candy. I used to make board games on paper myself as a little kid, and they all looked a lot like Candyland in their structure, because that's the only kind of board game that I knew about, was the one with the line that just goes back and forth in a big swirly shape. And I know I went through a period as a kid where my favorite game was probably Hungry Hungry Hippos, because that was just fun. You just smash the tail of the hippo and it eats all the marbles, and it's a speed game and it's completely nonsensical and it's incredibly loud. I think it was my favorite for, I want to say, about 25 minutes. I don't remember playing it more than 2 or 3 times, but it was awesome. When I was, I want to say, around 7 years old maybe, I was at my grandparents' house and I was looking through a cabinet and I found a few old board games that were weird and I'd never seen them before. Because to me, I just knew about Monopoly and, a few popular board games. But I found this one called Careers. And I pulled it out and I started playing it with my brother and my grandparents, and it was really cool. And I liked that it was a little bit more complicated than any of the games I'd seen so far, and that it had 3 kinds of things that you value. It had money, fame, and happiness. That's what it was. Money, fame, and happiness. The happiness were hearts. The money was like dollar signs, I think, and the fame was stars. I loved that you could choose which path to go on in the game. It wasn't just one straight line that goes around in a circle or it goes in a wavy line. And it was an eye-opener to me that you can make a game out of anything. So the second part of Tracy's question was my teenage years. What was my favorite board game then? I think this is the period where I stopped wearing my backpack on 2 shoulders and I started wearing it on 1 because I had to be cool, because I was a teenager. And that's the point where I wasn't playing board games as much, I think, because it was for kids, right? And because most of the board games that I knew genuinely were too simple to be enjoyable for a teenager. But I did have a phase where my friends and I all started playing a lot of chess, to the point where some of our friends started saying, "That's a lot of chess, guys. You got like 3 boards laid out and we're not talking and you're just sitting there staring at your pieces, and I would love to go and do something other than sit and play chess." And we realized that we kind of needed an intervention. My father was very into chess, and he still is, and I cannot beat my father at chess because he's really good. He's one of those really knows chess kind of people. Recently at board game night, my friend Rob said, "How would people feel if I started bringing chess?" And I didn't think. I immediately said, "No, thank you." I just have so many other board games in my life that I enjoy so much more that chess doesn't really do it for me anymore. Chess is like Shakespeare. Everybody knows it. Everyone sees that it's valuable. Everyone is capable of enjoying it at some point, but they don't necessarily want it all the time. If there's something a little bit more accessible, a little bit more fun, a little bit less classical. So that brings us to now. As an adult, what is my favorite board game? This is the hard one. I can narrow it down to 4 games: Betrayal at House on the Hill, Star Trek Attack Wing, Zombicide, and another one is Takenoko. A few months ago, I definitely said my favorite game was Takenoko. And I would bring it to people's houses and I would say, "Let's play this. It works with your kids, it works with adults, it works with everybody." It's a tile placement game, which is enough like a board to make me feel like I'm playing a board game. It has little representational pieces of bamboo and a little person and a little statue of a panda bear, and you move them around on the board. And there's cards, and there's dice. Well, there's a die. It's got all of the components that make me feel like I'm having the tactile experience that I want and telling the story that I want. It is maybe a little too simple for some players, and it does have one design flaw, which is that I find it's much easier to win if you focus mostly on the gardener cards and not on the panda cards or the plot cards. Zombicide is an excellent game. Zombicide has all of the things that I like about board games. It's almost like a role-playing game, but it's got the dice, the miniatures, which are very realistic, beautiful tiles, cards and dice. It has really good strategy and team cooperation and complex, difficult scenarios that you lose a lot, but you sometimes win, and it's very satisfying either way, and it's always fun. Star Trek Attack Wing, I only recently got into. My friend Terry Latorco, who does YouTube videos about war games and board games, was telling me, look, you know, she and I do this Twitter thing called Star Trek Hour together. We're both big Star Trek fans and board game fans, and she was like, you have to play this game, Star Trek Attack Wing. It's right up your alley. So I eventually broke down and got it, and it's really good. The only thing that it doesn't have for my list of things that I enjoy about the ideal board game is it doesn't have a lot of representational people. It has faces on cards, and it has little tokens you can stick on your ship's base to indicate who the captain is, but it doesn't have a place where you play out the scene within the bridge of the starship. All it has is starships flying around in space, shooting at each other. Those are the miniatures. They are spaceship miniatures. They are not people miniatures. It also doesn't come with a board. It just, you can buy different kinds of mats, and there is no perfect mat for it yet. Betrayal at House on the Hill is a great game. It looks like a strategic game. It has tile placement, so it looks kind of like a board game. It has beautiful little miniatures of people going into a haunted house and exploring and having terrible things happen to them. It has cooperative play, and then eventually one person becomes evil and tries to kill everyone else, and then it's two teams fighting. It has dice. It has cards for things that you find in different rooms. It has all the physical components that make a game look interesting and be fun to play with your hands. And it always tells a randomized, really good story that you do feel like you are taking part in because you're shaping the way the house builds out and you're shaping who's going to succeed. There is much more luck in this game than anything else, and it is not fair. It is not a strategic game where both sides have an equal chance of winning. It is often painfully obvious who's going to win very early. That's okay. You end up just playing it out and struggling to try to get that Hail Mary to maybe win at the end and just see how it's going to turn out. Because basically, it's a horror movie. And in a horror movie, you sometimes have one survivor, or no survivors, or everyone survives. It's hard to know for sure, but you don't really feel like, oh, it's fair to the survivors or to the monsters. It's not meant to be fair. It's meant to be entertaining. The way you approach the game is quickly decide, anytime you're not sure what a rule is, house rule it, move on, don't worry about it. The game's not fair, it's not supposed to be, it's supposed to be funny. Just keep going. If you're the kind of gamer who doesn't like games that are meaningless fun and you want to test the limits of your ability, Betrayal at House on the Hill is probably not your game. But it is my game, because I like the role-playing aspect of it and the world-building aspect. Of those four, Betrayal at House on the Hill, Zombicide, Star Trek Attack Wing, and Takenoko, I think my favorite is Zombicide. Zombicide has all the components of a really great game. Most people really love it. The only people who don't are people who really don't like zombies. Tracy, thank you for the suggestion for this video. I'm doing VITA this month, which stands for Video Every Day in August. This is my VITA number 3. If you have a suggestion for a video, please leave it in the comments below. What was your favorite board game as a kid? What is it now? Let me know in the comments. I will see you tomorrow. Thanks for watching.